The time has officially come. We need to talk about what Matvei Michkov is doing in the KHL right now. Matvei Michkov is one of the most anticipated and interesting players in the final months of this 2023 NHL draft. With his contract situation being in the KHL for the next couple of years, Michkov is really needed to impress to get higher in draft boards, and I think he's absolutely done that recently. But we're going to be talking about what exactly Michkov is doing that is so impressive, so watch till the end and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey prospect content just like this. Now, to say that Matvei Michkov's season has been a topsy-turvy ride would be an understatement for sure. At the start of the season in the KHL preseason game, he got rocked by former NHLer Alexei Emil, which put him out for a couple of weeks, and when he did get back, he played 3 KHL games, getting 0 points, and barely got any minutes whatsoever with SKA St. Petersburg. He then went down to the VHL, and all things considered, played pretty decently. Got 10 goals, 4 assists, 14 points in 12 games played, and then got loaned to HK Sochi. And in the KHL with this new team, Matvei Michkov has truly been showing what he's made of. Now, throughout the start of the season, the few KHL games with SKA as well as the VHL games we saw, there were a couple of concerns that started to bubble up for me, mainly some decision-making concerns. Even with the puck on his stick, there were some times where he'd pass into pressure a little bit too lackadaisically and give it up to opposing defenses way too easily. But these games that he has been playing with HK Sochi have been completely different, and to me, he looks like a certified KHL player, which for any player in their draft year is exceptional to see. And this year in 18 games with HK, he has 5 goals, 4 assists, and 9 points, and has looked really quite exceptional, a lot more confident at the level of HK in the KHL, and they are a horrendous team, one of the worst teams in the KHL, but whenever Michkov is on the ice, he makes them look way more competent, and honestly, that is an extreme compliment for an 18-year-old. And if you look at Matvei Michkov's team right now and look at points per game, right now he's tied for second with Nikita Papagayev and is only behind Artem Fyodov, who's played 16 games and has gotten 10 points in them, but is 29 years old. And you look at what Michkov is doing as an 18-year-old around these humongous men, around these much older guys, and is already exceeding a lot of them. It just shows how good Michkov has done, and in a different situation, in a better organization for him, how he's really found his home. And honestly, in the KHL, in your draft year, it's one thing to get a decent amount of time on ice, which is what Michkov is doing, but to also play well in those minutes, that's something that you rarely see out of any KHL draft eligible. I mean, just a couple of years ago, we had Daniel Yurov, who was playing a bunch of games in the KHL, wasn't getting many minutes and wasn't doing much in it, and he was a top 25 pick and looked at as one of the best prospects in that draft. With Michkov, he's getting the time on ice, he's surpassing his peers in the KHL in one of the best leagues in the world and playing well in those minutes offensively, which is what he should be doing since he has had so much hype, but it is still impressive nonetheless. As of right now, with Matvei Michkov, he is rocking an 0.50 points per game with his new team. Now let's compare that to Alexander Ovechkin's stats in Russia back in 2004, and he got an 0.45 points per game, getting 24 points in 53 games. Let's compare that to Evgeny Malkin, who in his draft year in 2004 got 12 points in 34 games for an 0.35 points per game. Now let's get to some actual KHL drafted players over the years, with Evgeny Kuznetsov being a big one. In his draft year in 2010, he got 8 points in 35 games for an 0.22 points per game. Valery Nichushkin back in his draft year going 10th overall, he had 6 points in 18 KHL games for an 0.33 points per game, but to be fair, he did get 9 points in 25 playoff games, which is pretty big. One of the only players in recent memory that is doing as well, if not better than Matvei Michkov, is Vladimir Tarasenko, who went 16th overall, and back in his draft year in 2010, he got 24 points, 13 goals in 42 KHL games, which was absolutely unheard of for an 0.57 points per game. But that's in the territory that Michkov is ahead of. He's in Tarasenko territory of doing so well in his KHL draft year. It's practically unheard of. And again, we haven't had a player do this well in the KHL since 2010. It just shows you how prolific Michkov has been. But even then, you do have some team differences. For Tarasenko, his highest score in his draft year on his team got 37 points in 56 games. Still not anything absolutely insane. But with Michkov and his team, the highest score on HK has 20 points in 47 games. This is not an offensive team, yet Michkov is still putting up elite offensive results. And honestly, with how good Michkov has done in the KHL, it's kind of made me rethink some of my aspects surrounding him. To me, the decision making has definitely taken a leap forward, but it might have just been the coaching style that he has now in HK. It might just be the more free reign to not have to worry about making mistakes, and that is maybe helping him in this solution out the KHL. But as of right now, even though I have him 4th in my prospect rankings, to me, he could definitely be tied with Leo Carlsson. He maybe could be even ahead by the time it's all said and done. Maybe he's in the Adam Fantilli range. And honestly, with you guys, I want to know as well where you guys would have Michkov right now, because I could have him anywhere. You could even make the case that he is the best prospect of this draft when it comes to what he is doing, especially what he's doing in the KHL. To me, I want to go that far, but especially in terms of just the pure player, he could absolutely become the best. I think he's one of the most talented, could be the most talented in this draft when it comes to pure skill and pure offense. But when it comes to the race, it's going to be crazy to see where he goes. I don't think he should go any lower than 4. And honestly, he could work himself back into my top 3 when it's all said and done. But what he's doing in the KHL is absolutely unbelievable. And I think people need to be starting to pay more attention to him still. But it's honestly incredible to just witness what Matvei Michkov is doing and to see him do this well in the KHL. Because again, we go through all the prospects, the Russian prospects playing in Russia over these past few years, and the best you could really get is maybe a couple of points, maybe playing 20 games, maybe getting like 5 minutes per game. But Michkov is truly surpassing all of those plateaus and doing as best as he possibly can. And some of those question marks that I had earlier that were kind of bubbling up in the VHL have kind of been resolved. From what I've seen, he's been a lot more confident, a lot more quick to make decisions, and I think it's aided his confident game and what he's been able to do in the KHL. And I think just getting in a new system, even if it might not be the most offensive, has just had a complete overhaul effect on Michkov's game, and I think that is for the better. Right now, in my last rankings, I had him 4th in the 2023 draft rankings, but I could definitely see a case where he's in the top 3, maybe even in the top 2. To me, besides Bedard, he is the most talented prospect of this draft. And if you want to bet on talent, you could definitely get him 2nd overall, and I could definitely see why you do it. And I think there are still tons of teams out there that will kind of be okay with the KHL agreements and waiting for him for a couple of years, like the Arizona Coyotes, for example, like the Montreal Canadiens, that aren't trying to be competitive right now. So we'll see where Michkov ends up going. But as of right now, he might be tied with Leo Carlsson, might even be ahead if I watch more of him. But he has just been so prolific right now with HK. And to see that at the KHL level, it is just astounding to see. And there's obviously still a lot of ways to go for him. I still think there's a lot more bulking up that needs to happen. As of right now, he's listed at around 150 pounds, which I think is not gonna cut it at the NHL level, but I think that's kind of why the KHL agreement might be best for Michkov's game. He'll be in the KHL for the next couple of years, and getting that chance to really bulk up and get even more experience versus pro competition might be what's best for him right now. And even though I think maybe the AHL would be the best possible place for him, at the same time, I think this is a player that if you give a couple of years to, he's going to be a monstrous goal scorer and a great offensive creator. And I think there are teams out there willing to wait for a player like that. And just let him absolutely dominate in the KHL for a couple of years and then bring him to North America, and I think he'll be a pretty complete project. He's never going to be this amazing defensive player, but I still think there is potential for a great player here at the NHL level, and a pretty elite one at that. If the offensive traits, if that skill, if that quick speed with his decision-making can continue to improve, then you have a first-line dynamic power play player here, and to me, there is going to be so much interest in that come draft time. But I want to know in the comments down below, where would you guys rank Matvei Michkov in this 2023 draft? Would you have him 1st? Would you have him 2nd? Would you have him 3rd? Would you have him 4th? Is he a part of that big 3? Is he ahead of a Carlsson or Adam Fantilli for you, or even a Connor Bedard? Let me know down below, and also let me know which team do you guys think will end up drafting Matvei Michkov this season, because I think it could go all over the place. But again, a team like Arizona, even as high as 2nd, I think could go after Michkov and draft him that high. So it'll be really interesting to see where he ends up. Let us know all your thoughts down below. Of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below all your thoughts, share the video with all the hockey and prospect fans you guys know online, and click this card for all my 2023 draft content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.